Hey Juventini, welcome to the all Juvecast, and this is episode 136, and we are recapping a Super Juve, winning the Supercoppa, beating Napoli 2 Lorenzo Insignia Kai, which was all very, very welcomed after what we suffered on the weekend. So it was a nice turn of events, and joining me making his debut on the podcast is Daniel. Daniel, how are you doing, man?
Good, Al. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting. Something happy to talk about for sure.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I dreaded doing the one after the last match, and I'm excited to talk about this one and the team getting a trophy and a lot of the youngsters being involved and everything. And it's gonna be good. And we are recording this podcast live. So for those of you who subscribe and follow the podcast on Spotify or iTunes or whatnot, keep in mind if you want to join in on the discussions. The majority of these pods are now being recorded live, and you can tune into them on my YouTube channel. So please check that out as well and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Daniel, before we get to this match, this trophy, and break it down, little tradition around here is finding out when guests join how they became fans of Juventus. So if you've got a little bit here, let's get you sharing your story. Why Juventus for you, Daniel?
I was a young kid, maybe 10 or so, and probably not even 10. And one day my dad came home with the classic black and white striped jersey. At the time, I didn't really know much about who was who, and ever since I cherished that jersey, and I started to watch more, and I saw Del Piero, and then eventually Chiellini and Marchisio and all the guys, and then for the past almost 15, 20 years, I've been a big fan, and they've given me a lot of heart attacks, but it's, wouldn't pick another team, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I always say, following Juve definitely ages you. And speeds up that process. But wouldn't change it for the world, man. That's awesome. Oh, and we got some live comment. Eric's asking if it's Daniel Lucci or Edward fucking Cullen. Do you get Edward Cullen a lot?
Wow, I've never heard that before, but is that a compliment? I don't really know.
Take it as a compliment, man.
Sure.
Edward Cullen in probably one of my favorite movies ever. As long as that's the guy I'm thinking of from American History X. I don't know. We'll see what Eric thinks. But without further ado, the match, the Supercoppa, Juventus versus Napoli. The lineups. We'll talk about the lineups we had coming into this. Obviously, the news hitting the day of was Cuadrado testing negative and making the trip solo on match day, and rumored to start, rumored to be on the bench. Nobody really knew. The lineups come out. You've got Szczesny in goal. It did come out with Cuadrado, Bonucci, Chiellini, and Danilo forming the back with McKennie, Bentancur, Arthur, Chiesa, and then Kulusevski and Ronaldo up top. So the question mark for me was, where does McKennie play and where does Chiesa play? Seeing Danilo line up on that left side, I figured what we would do is have Chiesa on that left side because we know that Danilo usually forms the back three when we shift into the offense. So to me, we were going to push through Cuadrado's side, which is what we usually do. And I figured we would put McKennie there. I was curious to see if, though, we would still push through the same side as Cuadrado and Chiesa. We know that Chiesa is more potent from the right side in what we've seen so far this season. And I was curious to see what would happen there. Outside of that, I still thought, this is going to be good. We get Danilo for coverage there, as it would be between Frabotta or Bernardeschi. And this season, Danilo's allowed us to have a lot of faith in him and whatnot. So I actually liked the lineup. I called for a scrappy, grinded out win that was going to end 2-1 for Juve. What were your thoughts when you saw the lineup, Daniel? And what was your kind of prediction? What was your expectations?
For the overall lineup, I liked it, but like you mentioned, the late news with Cuadrado, I was, like many others, kind of shocked that he was going to throw him right into the lineup right off the bat. But it is what it is, and good thing he did. I guess he came in handy, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kulishevsky up top again, obviously we liked the last time we saw him up top. And it's just seeing if we can build off that. And of course, we'll get to it after with what could be looming as far as the Mercado goes and involving our options and where we need to add players. But yeah, lineup pretty straightforward. Should be good to go. Bentancur and Arthur, I always had I had this feeling going into it that I tend to not like the two sharing the pitch because I see them occupying the same space and playing very, very similarly. But we'll get to the performances and whatnot. What were your thoughts on that midfield, though, with Bentancur and Arthur? Do you see that the same? Or
I do, actually. I from the beginning of the season, I've always said they've kind of have the same characteristics when it comes to playing the ball, wanting the ball, starting from deep. But they do from the last few games, it looks like, especially from Wednesday, it looks like they can play pretty well together. And going forward, I guess we'll see what Pirlo decides.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been the biggest question mark with this team, really, is the midfield. The combinations that you use, the pairings, trying Kulishevsky out in that Ramsey role. McKennie's been used in it a few times. So, yeah, there's always a question mark so far, and it's normal for a project like this, the one that Juve is currently in. It's a work in progress. So there's going to be question marks deeper into seasons when you have somebody that's kind of set the way we were with Allegri, for instance, a lot less questions. You knew what you were going to get. You can always expect it is what it is, right? So, yeah, a lot of questions. We'll see how the guys do. The biggest one is really going into this one was win at all costs. It's against a rival. It is a trophy. It's a one and done, and you need a big, big reaction after what happened on the weekend against Merda, right? So that was the big things.
Absolutely.
So we kick off with the match 8 minutes in, and actually a nice counter from Juve. Kulusevski finds Arthur. His shot ends up going high, whatnot, but positive start. In the 11th minute, we get another great build-up again through Danilo. And he's slipped through one, but called offside. Wasn't after seeing the replay. Danilo was actually onside, but shot was stopped nonetheless, but we wouldn't have known what would have happened on the scramble. But again, positive start. 19th minute, hard foul on Kulu there by Rui, and dangerous spot. Insigne taking the free kick and missing. And then 28th minute, an absolute incredible save by Szczesny. Absolutely incredible. And again, I was comfortable in the match, comfortable with how we were playing and everything. And this play just kind of got away from us. And out of nowhere, Danilo was in a bad position defensively on his player. The cross came in, and he's trying to kick it out, and he's got his foot in a dangerous area with Lozano there. But Lozano manages to get to this thing and head it right on. And Szczesny was huge with the reaction there. Massive save, because this team right now, Juve, they do tend to be that they give you that feeling of being pretty fragile, especially if they fall behind, right? Is that just me, or you get that same sense
absolutely.
from them? Yeah. So this was a massive save, especially because we talked about we had a positive start. We were controlling play as far as possession goes. But, Napoli was able to find this great opportunity very, very quickly. But Szczesny coming up huge. 39th minute, CR7 having a go from the edge of the area there with a really, really good shot. Just ended up going on wide. This kind of ended the first half, to be honest, as far as there was no real a lot of big chances. Obviously, Napoli getting the better one there, but we looked good in terms of the fight, the willingness to get up there and attack. The tempo was decent. I could say it still could have been a little bit better, but we were in control. We just, again, were lacking that something in the final third. Kuliszewski was doing well, but his execution was letting him down in certain areas. I thought we didn't get Chiesa involved nearly enough.
For sure.
And this is one of my concerns, and we'll talk about this in terms of the setup. It was something I talking about in the pre-match live. I was talking about wanting to have that attacking mid that we're going to use line up centrally and use him as that box to box, but be able to just drop back in defense, hit the middle, and then attack from the middle, straight through the middle. And what we could do is essentially your forwards need to be more rigid then and become that pivot, but it naturally creates more passing triangles. And then as you slide that forward over, the second forward can also try to overlap, getting behind. What that should do is naturally drag defenders over, and then that attacking mid could also take the space and attack through there. But the biggest thing is it gets rid of this one-sided play I feel that we get into by pushing that one midfielder, either Ramsey, McKennie, whoever from one side. It naturally just makes us so predictable and play through one side far too often. And in this one, in the first half, I was frustrated we weren't able to get Chiesa more involved. The times we did, he looked off, but this was at halftime and he actually ended up leaving the game, obviously for a knock or whatnot. So fingers crossed that everything's good there. Haven't really heard anything as far as attempts there, but this was a weird one. I felt like we need to adjust, not a formation or anything like that, just simply move that attacking mid centrally and get rid of that awkwardness. What were your thoughts at half, and what do you think about doing that or trying that, Daniel?
Well, like you said, that when you push that one midfield over from the side, it leaves a gap. It leaves space for them to attack. And Napoli, especially on the counter, they have lots of pace. So, if there's one bad issue coming back, they're going to exploit you, right? And, with Lozano and Insigne and whatever. But they managed to hold on pretty well for the first half. We did have some good chances, but then again, we still looked vulnerable, like you mentioned, when defending. And like we said, Chiesa on the left side, he doesn't feel like he's most comfortable there. Like he is more comfortable on the right side, which we're well aware of. And but hopefully he's okay. And having Chiesa on the left is better than not having Chiesa at all. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. But we talked about it halftime. Bernardeschi, you see him warming up. He enters the match. And Colin's coming in here saying that Szczesny did some of his best work for us. Szczesny was fantastic. That save, keeping us level there, was absolutely massive. Bernardeschi enters the match. Chiesa off. Fingers crossed for Chiesa. Maybe he didn't heal properly because he did get injured a couple matches ago. So maybe he just needs a little more time there. Maybe we rushed him back a little too quicker. We'll have eyes on him, though, because I think he's going to be a big part of our second half push here, and he needs to be. Bernardeschi enters the match, and my God, a minute in, he's got just about a tap in, and this thing is so close, and you're just screaming at it, and it stops. Just on the line there. Nice give and go with McKennie there. And McKennie putting that cross in there, and Berna just couldn't get enough on it. But again, positive start for us. 50th minute, and Berna's ball across ends up falling to Bentancur, who rips it. It gets blocked, but it later gets called on Bernardeschi for being offside. 54th, we get a 50-50 between CR and Ospina, and you're thinking, man, just tap that home. He gets to it. You think he's got no chance, and he's just going in for the sake of going in, but he gets to it, and he watches, and it goes wide after that collision. You're thinking, oh my God, you guys, come on. You're getting some opportunities now. Not the best by any means, high quality, but we're getting opportunities. The Bernardeschi one for sure was a quality chance. But again, we're in there. We're creating some havoc, and it's better. A little bit more urgency I felt right off the bat in the start of the second, which was
absolutely
good. Big positive. 63rd minute, CR7, money on the spot. A bad deflection off Bakayoko. Unfortunate for him, but very, very fortunate for us. And it falls to our money man, CR, who makes no mistake. And you would never expect him to miss that one. 1-0. Big goal. We take the lead, which is massive for this team. We don't want to go down with the way Juve's been. And especially in this one, again, we talk about controlling the play, but not as much as you would like to see in terms of chances created, right? So huge. 1-0. We're pumped. 68 minute. And again, nice charge by McKennie, who, if anybody uses GDS, Gazzetta dello Sport, for ratings, by all means, do not. They gave him a 5.5 in this one, and I think that's shocking. Needless to say, I think we know who they support, the ones that run that paper, but he did a great job. He found Kulishevsky, whose shot got blocked, deflected out. And Kulishevsky, the frustrating part, sometimes he gets into these great positions, and it's just that extra touch. And not only him, but a lot of our players are so dependent on firing with their dominant foot. And sometimes it's just like, you got to wonder, like, just let it go, even with the off foot. Like, how you guys are professionals at the end of the day. How bad could it really be, right? Like, man, I play in beer league and we use both feet. Like, sometimes I look at our guys and I'm like, oh, you're just being so greedy. Just hit the thing. It's funny, but 76th minute. So Mertens had entered the match on a sub. So McKennie's got the ball in our area, and he's taking a look upfield. He's teeing this thing up, and right as he tees up, Mertens comes in from behind, and this is where everyone's kind of getting questioned. As Mertens cuts him off, McKennie's in motion. He kicks him. Down he goes. Nothing gets called at the time. They review it. It gets called PK for Napoli. I think it's a PK, and I agree with it being a PK. Daniel, real quick, do you agree with that being a PK?
As soon as they went to VAR, you knew it was going to definitely get called. Yeah,
absolutely. Colin coming in with Gazzetta della Merda. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so good. I mean, we need to look about this. I think if all of a sudden you were to look at these instances and say, well, the player came out of nowhere, you take away the rules pertaining to the rest of the game, which is you need to be in control of your body, your actions throughout. That's like saying a player can run upfield, swinging his bows, and I clipped him, but I wasn't looking that way. You just can't do that. You
doesn't work like that.
So, and honestly, if it happened to us, I would want the PK too,
for sure, because
you got to be in control. And at the end of the day, he kicked him. Whether he came from behind him, he didn't see him, whatnot. If you start turning these things into accidents, what's purposeful, what's accident, you're opening up a bigger gray area,
for sure.
So it was a PK. So Lorenzo Insigne steps up. In my mind, I know it sucks, but I'm thinking it's equalizing. It's going to be an equalizer.
I thought the same.
But it is Insigne, and he's got a bit of a history on missing those things against us. He's missed a couple. And he steps up. Szczesny goes the wrong way. And Insigne misses the net on a wide open side. And we get to watch Bernardeschi cheer like he just scored a World Cup winning goal or a Champions League winning goal right behind Insigne, and I love it.
Yeah, love that reaction.
Hook that to my veins, man. Love it. So we dodge a bullet there. 83rd minute, Morata in for Kulishevsky, Rabiot coming in for Bentancur. And then, honestly, we get later in there, 89th minute, CR7 gets slipped through, but he's offside. And again, he wasn't able to finish that. 93rd minute, a great save again by Szczesny, dragging the foot on a shot that was probably – Chiellini had to block that. because it's going far post. So he puts his leg out, he blocks it, and then it gets deflected towards goal, and Szczesny able to drag that foot, stops it, we clear it. Massive, massive save again. And then a couple minutes later, on a great counter, Rabiot working on the 50-50. The ball finds McKennie. McKennie pops it over. It finds Morata, who finds Cuadrado, who carries it until the end, slips it in front of Morata, who buries it right at the death. 2-0, clean sheet, Supercoppa trophy, beat rivals, responded after a bad outing on the weekend. Big for this club. You got fans, again, lately these days, these matches, you have fans that say this was a great, solid performance, and then you have fans that are still unsatisfied and saying we were very, very lucky. I think we were fortunate, and there's nothing wrong in saying that. But they say that fortune favors the brave, and you got to go out there and fight. And that was the thing I was happiest mostly about, was the fact that we went out and we fought. We fought hard. Was it the best in terms of creation and opportunities? No, but every guy out there gave it their all. How many times did you see CR7 battling, scrapping to get balls and win them back for our team? He had the right attitude, the mentality. He did a lot of that, which he hasn't in some recent performances, but he did a ton of that. The guys in the middle of the park were working their bag off. Cuadrado, if Cuadrado played like that all the time, we wouldn't have this split amongst the fan base. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
It was a solid match. Were we lucky? Yeah, we were lucky, but we also had opportunities that we left. The Bernardeschi one, that could have been another one there. So it could have been 2-0 from the get-go there. And Szczesny, at the same time, made some big saves, but that's why he's there.
Right.
So yeah, this was massive, absolutely massive. And we got George coming saying it's criminal how globally underrated Szczesny is. Seems like he is eternally shadowed by his time at Arsenal by the neutrals. My man of the match. I had Szczesny as man of the match as well. Daniel, who's your man of the match?
Yeah, his two saves for sure, and probably some other smaller ones too. But he was very commanding. He made the crucial saves when you're like, oh, that is a good chance of going in. So he came up large for us. But like you said, that's what he's there for. Absolutely.
And the biggest thing is, and we'll get into it now, and we've got Juventini joining us live and whatnot. Get your questions, get any comments you all have in here, but we're going to get into some player reviews and whatnot. But the biggest thing, like, you still have some fans that say, well, it's just the Supercoppa and it doesn't matter that much, and we were lucky. Well, normally you could maybe say it's not that important, but the fact of the matter is, again, you have a project. You have a project right now. You have a group with some very, very young, inexperienced players. And you came off a very, very bad outing. I think we had to win this one. If it went the other way, I think it would have been so detrimental to this club, its mentality, and what they're trying to do. Winning this, treating it like a final, all the players coming out there, treating it with the right attitude. What they need to do is see that this is the standard. And I'm sure Pirlo would have the discussion because he's been talking about it every damn press conference. That's the standard. That's the bar. That's where it needs to be. Match in, match out, every single one, right? And now it's a matter of how we go about getting that. And Mal coming in here with instead they gave it to Ronaldo. That one puzzles me on the MVP. But hey, even Serie A knows who sells, so can't fault them. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty shocked. He ended up getting it. He did score the winner, whatnot. Yeah. So, take your pick. Usually offense gets the benefit of the doubt over defenders. But yeah, Colin coming in, biggest thing for me was the midfield improvement. Benta had a decent game, put himself about, and Arthur was excellent with his passing. So I agree. And let's get to the Centrocampo. So, oh man, it seems like my opinion on this changes almost every single match of who our best midfield is, how to play them. We talked about this one prior to the match. We talked about what we thought when we saw the lineup and how Bentancur and Arthur, they share the same space. They play in a very similar manner. And honestly, I still feel that way. I feel they really, really do. McKennie's a good complement to that. Rabiot doesn't really blend in well when it's Bentancur and Arthur. I feel you really lack that push or drive forward. Ramsey fits in well, but again, I think just a slight adjustment with somebody being centrally that attacks would go a long way for this team. Bentancur and Arthur, what was working well was that Bentancur was getting the ball quickly over to Arthur. And Arthur was much more direct than I've seen out of him. I can think of one other match this season where I was like, this is what I want out of him. Finding those guys, finding those passing lanes and drilling a pass in there and through there. He was doing that quite well in this one. So I was really, really happy with it. And the question now becomes, how do you line up our midfield and what's our best combo? And Daniel, I'm gonna let you tackle that one here, and I'm sure the listeners, the ones joining us live, they can get their comments here on our best midfield moving forward.
Yeah, so I honestly, I mentioned this prior. I thought this was Artur's best game with us since he joined in the summer. You know, he found himself in some good offensive positions, making some good forward passes. Usually in other games I've seen him, he's always passing, you know, sideways, backwards, making the short passes. But I thought he was a lot more direct, like you mentioned. Going forward, I think especially if you're going with the hot hand, you have to go with McKennie, Artur, and Bentancur to start again. As we mentioned, I know they're very similar, but somehow it seemed to work better than Rabiot there. Sometimes when Rabiot is on, he's useful, he's good, but lately he just looks like he's lacking motivation or some kind of, he's just doesn't have the form, and he doesn't look like he belonging into that midfield duo right now. So right now I'd go with Artur and Bentancur for sure.
Yeah, so Artur, Benta, and then McKennie. McKennie is a lock for me.
Agreed.
Artur, there's been a lot of shouts by many Juventini that he needs to be a lock as well. And honestly, I wasn't feeling it. But, I mean, I think he kind of has to, just because of how much easier he makes it for everybody else with that possession ability he has in holding the possession. So that alone, even if he's not in the mode where he's passing so directly, I think that alone, and we saw it against Napoli, is so important for us. Just the fact that how he can shut the other team down just in keeping the ball from them.
Yes. Yeah.
And allows us that relief, right? And that escape. So yeah, those two for sure. And then Bentancur and Arthur, I can see it. I can see it happening again. I just want to see more of that situational switch with that guy in the middle attacking.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's great stuff on the Centrocampo. Let's talk about center backs. Okay. What's our best setup as far as center backs go? Chiellini was roasted by many Juventini after the weekend outing. We know how Bonucci has been. I think Chiellini still has a lot to add when he's in there, and he's fit. More so than Bonucci, in my opinion. Once De Ligt gets back, that guy's a lock, no question. You know, Danilo's got to be in the back as far as what he's done this season. No question. The thing is, if everybody gets fit, can the shout be made for Chiellini, De Ligt, Danilo as those guys for him in the back? And then obviously Cuadrado. We'll get to Cuadrado afterwards, but focusing on these main three guys. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
For me, those would be my three starters. I agree. I think although Chiellini, like we mentioned, he's had, his injury problems for the past year and a half or whatever it's been, but you notice when he's in there, everyone seems to be more composed. He brings his leadership, his experience. No one else can bring what he brings to this team. And even at, his late 30s, he's still fighting every game. He's giving everything he has. Like, that's what you want to see in your team, right? And your captain for sure. The hate he got on the weekend against Inter, I didn't really understand that. He did his best with Lukaku. He shut him down the best he could. I don't really understand. I didn't think he was our worst player. He didn't really have a bad game, but
I had no problems with what I saw at Chiellini against Merda, to be honest. Whenever I get asked if everybody's healthy, our best center back setup, I have him and De Ligt in there at the heart, and Danilo as one of those side guys for sure. If he's fit, I can't see leaving him out. Like, he's just, you play these teams that have these guys, and he takes them out. He takes them right out of the game. Like, he does good. Lukaku had his opportunities, but my God, I would hate to see what it could have been if Chiellini wasn't in there.
Right.
De Ligt would have pocketed him too, but Bonucci is. I don't know. I'm not necessarily seeing it, and we've seen Danilo, and even in this past match, Cuadrado offer some great passes forward from the back there. Actually, those over the top balls and stuff. It's tough. Colin's coming in here saying that Bonucci might lose the plot, but I think that's our best lineup. Potentially, you could sub Chiello and Bonucci, Chiello, Danilo, De Ligt. Yeah, I honestly, Chiellini, Danilo, and De Ligt is my way. Is how I'd go. How I'd be going. Mal obviously saying same as Danilo. Love their zipping passes. Yeah, absolutely. The thing right now, when we talk about this team, and it's the consistency. It's a consistency that we need to get up. It's consistency. Sorry, we want to see improve, and that's where the issue has been. And I think part of it is we've got to ride the hot hands. Mm-hmm. And whether we're talking about the midfield, whether we're talking about the center backs, when we're talking about guys like Kulusevski, I think now is he's got to be in that attacking position. If you give him a role where he's at a wing back, you're getting him doing things he doesn't need to be concerned with, to be honest, and you're wasting it. In terms of the center back best setup, I've seen better out of Chiellini in a shorter period of time right now than I've seen out of Bonucci for a long period of time.
Definitely.
So it's just, call it playing the odds, call it playing the percentages or whatnot. De Ligt comes back. For me, I got Chiellini and De Ligt in there at the heart. Mm-hmm. It's and again, you can go back and forth, and this could change from match to match because that's what we've seen is the consistency, right? We will get to Kulusevski in keeping with the midfield in best setups and center backs and stuff. Question come up with Dybala. Can Dybala be played in the Ramsey McKennie spot? And man, I don't know. I'd love to see it. Because then that means you've got Kulusevski up top, Morata up top, Ronaldo up top. You've got a combination of those options, 2 out of those 3 up there, and you still got Dybala on the pitch. I don't think we could ever see it happening the way we run it now, with it coming from one of the sides, right? There's far too much defensive duty that way. if we were to try a scenario where you just keep him centrally and he moves up and down, a little bit less, but still quite a bit of defensive duty required.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could try it. I almost think Kulishevsky could do it quite a bit more than Dybala because of his pace.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kulishevsky is, for a guy's size, he's very, very quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, but what are your thoughts on Dybala and being able to play out of that spot?
Yeah, like you mentioned, coming from one of the midfield sides and kind of going forward with the attackers, I don't think that would work best for Dybala. But I think if you play him as an actual attacking midfielder in front of the two, that would benefit him a lot. Not only would he be able to, not defend as much as he would in an actual midfield position, but he'll also be able to, he'll get some free space. He'll get to roam, where I think that's better for him. He's not really, a front man, a target guy that's going to, win you balls in the air, but he needs his space. He needs to get creative. And behind the strikers, he has the vision to pick out those passes. If I'd prefer to put him there over Ramsey. Like, I know Ramsey has had a couple good games and then he'll go, invisible for another 2 games. That one kind of confuses me, why he's relied upon that much. He's not great defensively either. So that's why, if anyone's going to be in that midfield spot where it's more attacking and box to box, then it's got to be McKennie for sure. Like we already discussed.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? Is just it's got to make sense. I see too much defensive responsibility still there to really do it. Colin coming in with Dybala's physicality limits him, I feel. Tend to agree, right? That's why I was talking about Kulishevsky being able to do it based on his speed and whatnot as well. Mal coming in with we got to be patient in terms of what we're expecting in players, and I know there's been some comments about Kulishevsky and whatnot, but we have to be patient. Hate to say it because I'm the first one to turn off the game if it's really bad, but we're on 3 coaches in the last 3 years along with the personnel change. It's bound to stink. But when it's good, it's really good, right? And we talked about this quite a bit in terms of Pirlo. I feel he's done well. He's on to something for sure. He just needs to have something more. He needs to grow this setup a little bit more so that it's got a tweak to it. It's got a level of depth to it. Because right now it's just what you see, what you get. What he needs to do now is have that ability to change on the fly and make it something more based on what the opponent's giving us. And that's the last thing I need to see out of him that we haven't been so far. Your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I think he needs to be able to just adapt a little more mid-game. If he sees a squad lining up to, how he's lined up, like they're reading how we are, like Inter read us perfectly. They expected what Pirlo was going to do. He needs to be able to do something a little different to change things up. I do think that'll come with more time for him. He's only coached a few games, and along with that, I think bringing in some more personalities that he can get into his system that might work a little better for him. That might help also. But I like when it's good, like you said, it's good. Like I like what I've seen, some progress through him throughout this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mal coming in with this is why Bentancur is a must to take the load off McKennie going forward. Rabiot's too flashy and forward thinking to do that. Yeah, my thoughts are whoever you use as that attacking mid, getting him central, what you would do is be extending the other 2 to pivots and keeping them to stabilize everything defensively. So that's kind of like my thought process, and would get rid of this weird transition and would eliminate what Merda did so well against us and Roma did so well against us and Napoli did only a couple times, which is capitalize when we get caught and pushing out of one side with that midfielder and having this huge gap where literally like one pass and you've got a midfielder wide open for space, and literally leaving one side open, one switch field ball, and the other team's coming at us, right? So that's just kind of, I think, what we need to see eliminated. So, but yeah, Pirlo's done well so far, in my personal opinion. He just needs to just add a little bit more and learn to adapt to what's happening at the time. George coming in with, I believe that the reason Dybala doesn't start in that Ramsey role is due to limited numbers up top. If Morata is unavailable, Dybala is the go-to there. It's now we are seeing Kulusevski there. Yes, absolutely. The other strange thing is, and I'm seeing this even with Kulusevski up there, but the last time Kulusevski was up top there, he had Morata, and it was quite a bit different than how it played out with Ronaldo. It's quite a bit different when Dybala's up there and Ronaldo's up there. The main thing is that Morata is huge to this setup because he's the only true 9, and he's the only one that plays it that way. Yeah. Kulusevski looks better when he's in there. Ronaldo does well when he's in there. They do great. Dybala, we haven't seen enough. You haven't seen Dybala, Morata enough to see, right? But Morata's crucial. So now in terms of Kulusevski, and fans have seen him up there now a couple of games, and some are saying, let's not go after a 4 striker because we can use Kulusevski there, and let's bring in the creative playmaker. I swear to God, my mind has changed on this so many times, man. It's insane as far as getting a 4 striker or getting that creative playmaker. And honestly, like, if we use Kulusevski up there, I still see us missing the point of why I think they were going after, which is to have a second alternative to Morata.
Yes. Because
nobody truly does that. So now all of a sudden, if we're saying Kulusevski is the answer, well, it looks different in the setup, and it's a little bit odd when it's Kulusevski and Ronaldo. It's odd when it's Dybala and Ronaldo. It's, you're still, it's so much different and so much more effective when Morata is in there. That being said, would I still go with that creative player? It's a tough one. I think we could get by even not having that other 9, because they're still talented enough and could still do damage. And then you start asking yourself, well, if they had a more solid creative playmaker, is that going to help all those guys? Which I actually think it would. I think it would. So, oh man, do you stop with this 4 striker, and do you pull a move on Papu Gomez, which is now all of a sudden today been the big thing that Juve is going to go in apparently on Papu? What do you think, Dan?
Like we said, I just think if Morata gets injured for a solid period of time, you're not going to be able to offer that. Like, the system won't be able to work properly with Ronaldo and Dybala, or Ronaldo and Kulusevski. I just feel like something would be missing. They might be able to get away with that against some of the smaller teams, but when you have to go against Milan and Inter and Napoli again, like, they're gonna realize how you play, and you don't have your real number 9 up there. They'll be able to pick that apart fairly easily. Not that Ronaldo can't play it, but he always prefers to drift to the wing. And when it comes to Papu, I'm torn on this one. Like, I feel like he's a great player. He was great for Atalanta, but how would he be in a different system, a different team? Take the age into consideration. There's just so many things that might not play out well. That's my only cautious thing about that move.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got comments coming in, and Vishwajit saying, haven't Atalanta said they won't sell to teams top of them? And sorry, yeah, they have said that. However, Papu Gomez is not accepting anything that isn't in Serie A. So you're kind of at this flux there, where the footballing world, the players have a lot of say. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's a funny one, and it's an interesting one, because saying that we're gonna keep Kulu now and don't go after the fourth striker really is counterproductive to the whole point of why they wanted a fourth, which is to offer the change up to Morata. So it's a weird one. When I look at Kulishevsky again, I think that's your playmaker, man.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I think he's your playmaker. I don't see him as that second guy up front that we need to see him expecting he's going to bury all these goals. I see him a lot differently, man. I see him running from the midfield, like attacking defenses and then being able to slip the ball through. He did that a lot at the start when he was getting he did it a lot in games where he came in as subs and he was going at tired legs. I like him better in that kind of role. And especially when he's up top, if you look at all his dispossessions, they're all usually the same, which is when he tries to play with back to goal, he struggles. He struggles a lot, and he gets dispossessed very, very easily. So to say he's the answer there, and let's go to creative, I would almost challenge the other way and say, I think he's more your creative guy. Let's find a second to Morata.
Like we've seen him do better when he has his space, when he's able to be creative. As we said, we don't really like him coming off the right hand side or as a right wing back, but he has had some decent created some decent chances coming off that side. Now, if he's able to do something similar coming from the middle, that might benefit him and the strikers in front of him. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely. And Mal coming in, bingo. Kulu should be tried in that role. He is too good at taking on defense to be buried up top. Yeah. So, interesting. And again, so many questions, but it's something like anybody that follows the pod has known. I've been shouting for Kulu to be the change up to Ramsey for a while. I wanted to see him in that type of role. And I'm kind of surprised that we haven't. Yeah. And I'm not sure why Pirlo hasn't really tried that or seen that in his play. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
I can't really just fathom that. But we talked about Papu, Brian Reynolds. Funny to see Juventini up in arms about Brian Reynolds. A lot of them didn't even know who the hell this guy was when we were linked to him, but now they're pissed off because apparently he's going to go to Roma, and Juve's kind of backing off. To me, and I know that there were people saying, hyping up Brian Reynolds quite a bit. I did a very, very brief preview about Brian Reynolds, but I always saw it as a guy that I wouldn't expect to break through at Juve. It was maybe a bargaining chip. It was maybe just some plusvalenza down the line. I know that the McKennie thing worked out great. I'm not saying Brian Reynolds is not a good player, but it was one of those things where he's got a lot to grow on if you've seen him play and whatnot, especially with defensively. He's pretty clumsy, takes a lot of fouls. So it would be good in terms of getting him into Italy, him growing his game and developing, but he would have had a long way to go, in my personal opinion, to break through. So the fact that he's going to Roma and Juventini are so pissed off that we're not getting this guy, I would say calm down. I don't think it's that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, to be honest. Daniel, your thoughts with Reynolds there?
Yeah, I've seen some highlights of him. I did some research, and you could tell he wasn't the strongest defensively, so he was definitely going to have to take some time to work on that. Even if he were to pan out, it probably wouldn't be something to have, to even try to feature for Juve from a year or two from now. And I was just thinking about this recently. I think it was rumored between 7 and 10 million they had to offer FC Dallas for Reynolds. I'm thinking maybe instead of putting that towards him, they might put it towards Papu. Yeah. Because I know that's roughly around the number Atalanta's looking for also. So maybe that's what they're thinking.
And the thing is, too, is that things change on the fly all the time.
Yeah.
And you hear so much and you hear so many things, and then they can break down like that. You never really know. The way I look at it is absolutely anything can happen. You take all the rumors, you can discuss them. I always love discussing all of them in terms of hypotheticals and whatnot. But as far as taking them as the be-all, end-all, very, very, very rarely. And speaking of that, obviously Romeo Agresti there in his appearance today saying that it's not Locatelli or Pogba, but it's Locatelli and Pogba. Well, hey, we can all dream, right? But that would be one hell of a feat to accomplish, and I just can't see it, man. I just can't see it.
Me neither. I think that's gonna cost them a lot. They'd have to move out a lot of pieces to make that happen. I think
it's crazy, and I know that there are the circumstances where the players can force hands of clubs at times, which they can do. We saw it with Ronaldo, where we picked him up for 100, and he was going. He made his choice. He made the pick, and he's like, "Sell me here, whatnot." Players have a lot of power in football. So yeah, who knows? But this, don't get me wrong, I would be jumping up and down if you tell me in the summer, if we get Locatelli and Pogba. I just can't see it. I just can't see it. Yeah. I think Locatelli though is I think Locatelli's a lock, to be honest.
I hope so. I hope so. I think I'd prefer him. If I had to choose, I'd take him over Pogba. If I'm being honest.
Colin's saying maybe if we start the GoFundMe now, there you go. There you go. So who's going to be the one to start that up after this pod? We got to get going on it. We got a few months till that summer mercado there. Okay, here's the fun one, Daniel. A player always splitting Juventini right down the middle. Quadrado. Is Quadrado back above Chiesa on the depth chart at that right side position? So here's the thing with me, and everybody knows about my thoughts of Quadrado, and it's just that every game's really an adventure. And you deal with the mistakes and you deal with the frustrations, and he comes up with these moments and unlocks games, and you're just like, holy shit, what just happened, right? After screaming what feels like for half an hour or whatnot, then all of a sudden he makes his play, and you're just like, wow. This match, if it was like this all the time with Quadrado, I would never have an issue. Yeah. I thought he was so solid. He was money, in my opinion, in this match. And if he's like that, man, it'd be hard not to allow him that position, even with Chiesa and what I think about Chiesa, which is he's just so dangerous. And that's why I really, really think we need to find a way to better balance the attack and not make it so one-sided. I think Chiesa could still do damage should he be used on the left side. If we look at the two players, Quadrado is a nightmare on the left side compared to what Chiesa is from right to left. Yeah. So I would not put Quadrado on the left side ever again. Yeah. But I'm fine with Chiesa on the left. I just think we can't stop getting him involved when he gets over there. And I think back to several matches where he's been in the left, and it's not just that he's looked a bit off there. We're not involving him enough. And Pirlo's even said, we're just not triggering the 1v1 scenarios out of there. Yeah. So it's tough, but Quadrado, man, if he was like that all the time.
If only he could be there, it's tough. Like I've gotten a lot of hate or slack about Quadrado and some of the games he's had. But when he's good, he's great. It's just sometimes, he's making those bad decisions or defensively or bad, he's trying to force a play. I feel if you are to keep him on the right side, you still, like you said, you have to keep Chiesa in the match. You got to keep him on the left. The only thing I'm thinking is that Cuadrado, he was off for a while, and the only thing that may have benefited him against Napoli is that he was going up against Mario Rui and Insigne. Both not top defenders, both have pace, but don't like to really come back and help defensively. And I think Cuadrado really was able to exploit them that way. If that's going to be like that every game, that I don't know, but it's really tough to say. I'm a big Chiesa supporter, so for me, as I have to see him in the lineup, even if it is on the left. It's tough. I don't know.
I think it's down to the play. And just balancing our attack and not becoming so one-sided, which we see quite a bit. Colin coming in with man of the match performance for Cuadrado for circumstances and the shift he put in. Inspirational. Yeah, obviously literally making the trip down there that day and putting in one hell of a shift. Mal coming in. Cuadrado isn't on Ronaldo's level, but lately Cuadrado isn't any different. Ronaldo, too, can have the most forgettable game, yet finds a way to score. You have to take it at face value. That's just Panita. Yep. Eric with his completely non-biased opinion. Yeah, we know Eric's thoughts there. Colin saying, I think it's down to the midfielders to get that ball to Chiesa, so there's improvement to be made. Yeah, again, just balance and play, balance and attack, not becoming so one-dimensional, right? And it's one of those things. I'm with you. I really, really like Chiesa, and I want to see him in that lineup. When if Cuadrado's like that, man, but will it be? That's the other thing.
Yes, right.
Because if we go back to what we were getting before, there was already the discussion that Chiesa should be above him. So if you've already had that discussion and it's this one-off match, man, I think it's really, really tough. It's a tough one. What do I think Pirlo will do? I think Pirlo will lean on Cuadrado.
I think so.
I think he's going to lean on Cuadrado, just the same way he still leans on Bonucci. And it could be what kills him. If the consistency's not there or whatnot, it could be what takes us down. But we keep asking for these turning points. I thought the turning point was after the Derby della Mola. Didn't really happen. I thought maybe, okay, here's Milan. That's a big turning point.
Yeah.
We keep asking ourselves, is this the turning point? Is this the turning point? Is this where it kind of the switch flips? But it's not happening. It's not happening. How come? Why? We start looking at this. We've got injuries. You got COVID. You got all this stuff interfering. You got a young team. There's so many moving parts right now. It doesn't surprise me that we're struggling for consistency, really. And what do? Pirlo's got to go with the hot hands. We talked about it earlier. He's got to go with the hot hands. You got to do it. You got to almost throw rest out the window in terms of just getting that momentum rolling. And then when you do make the changes, they got to be minimal. Yes. You can't just change half a starting 11 and expect it to flow or whatnot. He's got to get the wheels in motion, and he's probably going to have to throw a little bit of rest for certain guys out of the window and just make it happen. And we've been dealing with that for a while anyways, for years.
For sure.
Right? So let me ask you this. How do you follow up the Supercoppa going into this match, even regardless of what we think of Bologna or whatnot? What's your lineup? How do you follow that one up?
Ooh. That's tough. I think you have to go. I think you go this. The only change I would make, I'll say it this way: the only change I would make would be starting Morata up top over Kulusevski. That's my change. And then if that doesn't work, like we said, I'd still like to see Kulu in that attacking midfield, box to box type of position. Will I think Pirlo will do that? Probably not, at least not this season, because I figured he would have tried it by now. But if Chiesa's healthy and able to go, I would still put him on the left. You give Cuadrado a shot again on the right. If it doesn't go well, I thought Bernardeschi had a great second half when he came on. He looked very lively. So it's always good to have an option on the left. Especially being that his favorite side.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because Bernardeschi, I thought, was awesome coming in. He was huge. He was working his ass off. And what was odd was that the play changed when he entered. All of a sudden, we became heavy on that side, even though McKennie in our attacking mid was on the opposite side. It was weird. It was kind of weird to see. And the thing is just Bernardeschi, again, going back to a few episodes ago when people were saying, let's get rid of him in January and let's move him. I was saying no because of the fact he's a utility.
Yes, definitely.
And I had said January is the worst time right now, especially when you've got guys falling down all over the place with injuries. You've got COVID rearing its head. Utility guys, I'd keep them.
Yeah, I agree.
So Bernardeschi did a fantastic job. That was probably one of the best shifts he's put in for us in his tenure with Juve. So good shout there on Berna. In terms of the starting lineup, I agree. I think you keep things rolling. The Kulu Morata, that's decent shout. In the midfield, I would definitely follow up the exact same. 100%. Follow up with the same guys. Let's get it going. And it's funny, we talk about all these transfers and everything, and we kind of talked about Pogba and Locatelli and whatnot, and people are almost forgetting that we have a lot of guys coming back from loan that we got to move. That may not be so damn easy. Man, what was the other? What was it? Parma is showing interest in Rugani.
Yeah.
Man, I will get over there, pack his entire place up immediately, to make this happen. Have to. We've got to find ways to move these guys. Absolutely have to find ways to move these guys. Costa, obviously Bayern's not going to be taking up the option on that. And then you've got Di
Yep.
Man, that's going to be tough. And then Rugani. Look at these guys. Amada, I'll pay half the Rugani transfer. I love it. It's going to be tough. Look at Mal. You're sounding like Allegri. Kadira will be like a new January sign. Bernardeschi will be our new signing. Anyway, pump the brakes. Nobody's saying that. It's just we can't get rid of utility guys right now.
It's good to have that depth.
Come on. What's Eric talking about here? Chiesa's health might be questionable. Would rather probably see him get some rest for the Copa match. My professional opinion on that ankle injury is it's not 100%. It's and then Vishwaji, I said that, Al, when we were talking about the loanees coming back, and we got to deal with that. We have to deal with that. So, I don't know. Let's take the Mercado news for what it is. Rumors, time will tell, whatnot. In terms of right now, you want to talk about right now and moves we can see Juve making. What do you think happens in January? I was saying this for a while. There was links with the young players. I could see them loading up some younger guys for some plus Valenza when the tides turn in terms of the circumstances with COVID and whatnot, and maybe one player that will actually plug into the lineup. And I still say the same. I think we pick up one player, whether it's that fourth striker, whether it's the playmaker. I don't know, but I say we get one guy in January that actually joins the lineup. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't know. Have they confirmed this Rovella signing yet? I keep seeing mixed reports on if it's confirmed or not.
Yeah, and this is another thing.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds was done.
Right.
Done deal. Rovella finished all this stuff. I don't know, man. Like, honestly, I haven't seen anything new. Last I heard was because it was Portanova supposed to go the opposite direction.
Right.
In the Rovella deal.
If that happens, I think that's a good future piece. Like we said, maybe do another one or two of those, but I don't really know who's available, like a similar deal like that. And I do think it'll be one striker is my opinion. I just can't see them going after Papu. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense, especially if you're planning on bringing in some top midfielders in the summer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a weird one. And here, Colin saying that according to Agresti, Rovella is a done deal. Colin also saying, let's hire a van, move all of Berna stuff to Park.
Why wouldn't Berna do?
Rugani. Let's get Rugani gone. But yeah, that's funny stuff. Yeah, the Mercado things are all over the map, really, all over the map. And Scamacchia, I want to finish up with your thoughts on Scamacchia. And what do you think of him as a prospect, as a player? And if he were to join in, obviously the number we would put towards that move to bring him in.
Yeah. See, I was supporting him when these rumors were becoming picking up steam. Now that I haven't seen much, I'm not so sure. But I like the way he plays. I like his style. He's a real number 9. He's big. He's got decent feet, decent pace. Yes, he doesn't score much, but I think playing at Genoa and not playing that much might, definitely affect that. Playing with the likes of Dybala or Ronaldo, Chiesa, whatever, maybe that changes a little bit. He's only 22 or whatever he is. But I think even if, you bring him in for, the rest of this year, see what he's like, can offer you next year. And if it doesn't work out, the chances of you losing money on that deal would be tough. I think you could still make a profit, plus Valenza, like we said, on others. I think that could still be an option if they do decide to go that route.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Is just I don't see it in a move where they lose.
Yes.
And it's definitely it just makes sense, especially if you can plug in as a 4 striker, which we just need someone to offer that relief to Morata and still play that role. But you're right; like he surprises me at how well he is as a with the ball at feet.
Yes.
And his technical ability actually surprises me. And it surprised me when we played them in that match, that Copa match there. Vishwajit saying, can't we play Pinsolio as a 4 striker? Man, but who's going to sit next to Gigi, man, and give us all the sweet photos and banter there? Those guys are the cheering section, man. They're awesome. You can always hear them, too.
Number 1 supporters.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, Scamacchia is an interesting one, man. I know a lot of people balking at the prices, but, Giroud, apparently Pirlo's hot on Giroud. And that's another one. All these guys are out there. Even Llorente was out there, whatnot. Yeah. It's crazy, man. To me, you don't lose when you go with the youngsters, and we have to look at this realistically. We're not getting this guy to be the guy.
Right.
It's a 4th striker, so I think in terms of whatever is the best deal, whatever makes the most sense, if they can see themselves turning a really good profit on Scamacchia, or if they actually see him as part of the future, then do it because you won't lose. But if we're going to do a stopgap up there, and maybe then and it's going to be just some old guy that you're doing stopgap, maybe then you are better off getting that playmaker. If you're just going to do a stopgap up there for a fourth striker, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe you do deal with the other guys you have around in your roster and get that playmaker. The other thing is you got a guy like Dybala. We got into that discussion earlier. I can't see him really slotting into that attacking mid role based on the defensive requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to use him up top.
Yeah.
So if we start adding another guy up top there, for the sake of giving Morata rest, what does this do to the other guys if we're not going to use them in other positions or we can't use them in other positions?
Yeah.
So it's a tough one, man. It's a really, really tough one. I don't think there is really necessarily a right or wrong, but I think the way you look at it is you got 3 forwards. I don't consider Kulusevski in there.
Mm-hmm.
If one of those guys goes down and it is Morata, you don't have a backup.
Right.
Scamacca, I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it. Your playmaker, let's go with Kulusevski. Let's go with him there quicker so that we can see what we got.
Yeah.
I think that's where we go. Last and certainly not least, man, we come out of the weekend. Everybody's ready to get Pirlo out of there. But he's just firing away, and I come out and said it does nothing for us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you have to commit and just say we're all in, and we got to ride this out. We can't create a coach carousel. This one was big, I think, not just for the players, the young guys that were there, the team, but this was big for Pirlo, the Supercoppa. This was not a meaningless trophy that some may make it out to be. Personally, I just can't agree with that. This meant a lot. You could tell it meant a lot. And how beautiful was it to see Pirlo's reaction to the goal, celebrating the trophy? That was absolutely beautiful to see. I loved it. Loved it. I want to get your thoughts on Pirlo so far in general, the project, what you think about the project, and what your thoughts are. And even you can go back into Juve over these 3 past coaches, like the last year of Allegri, last season with Sarri, and now Pirlo, and just your observations, what you think, and how you feel as a fan.
The people that are calling for Pirlo to, get the boot already just doesn't make sense to me. We don't want to be, another mid-level team that goes through coaches like it's nothing. You're not going to accomplish anything like that, changing systems, changing tactics every few months with a new coach. I think the team has responded better to Pirlo than they did with Sarri last year. I feel like he's actually getting some type of vision out to these players. Maybe, like we said, with a couple additions, we'll see that even more. And I personally liked Allegri. I just figured his time came. You need a different voice in the room, on the bench, whatever. But I think if you want to call Sarri a stopgap for a year, whatever. But from what I've seen from Pirlo already is already better than what I saw from Sarri all of last year, in my opinion. And the team has gotten younger. He's enforcing, some youth and, giving them some minutes. Like Kulusevski, he was keen on bringing in Chiesa, McKennie, all those guys. And hopefully we can keep on that kind of that youth rebuild. Not saying we have to overturn the whole squad, but I think, a good injection of youth will help keep this team, along with Pirlo, successful and competitive for the next few years. So I like what he's done. I like what he's done. I know he's had a couple shaky games here and there, but that's to be expected with someone so new.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Mal brought up an awesome point earlier when he said about, us being patient, right? We have to think about this, and I keep reiterating to Juventini about how insane what we've done over the past 9 years actually is.
Yes.
It is insane. We've had turnover through that time. Honestly, how we pulled the 9th off still blows my mind because we were an absolute mess, and we fell apart. We crumbled at the end, but so did everybody else. I think if we can keep ourselves in there, if Pirlo can keep ourselves, if we can keep ourselves in that mix, as long as we're even clipping at the heels, the pressure mounts up as the time goes on, as the season gets later and later. And I can see these other guys dropping off too. And if we can continue to just plug away, chip away, and we get stronger and strong, because I've already noticed a bit of change in Pirlo.
Yeah.
From the start to now, I've already noticed a bit of change. The substitutions, I was critical of him at the beginning for a while because they felt to lack any kind of connection to the actual match and what was happening. That's changed. They seem to make a lot more sense now. It's coming together. The personnel, how he uses them, where he puts them, starting to make sense. He's starting to figure it out. He's starting to grow in terms of understanding who he has, what their capabilities are, what they need to do. So I see that change there. Again, if we can just keep it close, chip away, anything can really happen.
For sure.
But the thing is, if we set this standard that's so incredibly ridiculous, I think you'll just keep changing things over and over and over, and you'll never be happy.
Yeah.
There comes a time where you just gotta say, hey, we're all in. Has Pirlo done enough right now to say, hey, we're all in? That could be questionable, like debatable. But it's very, very early. Why make that call now? I think take a look at everything come the end of the season, see where we're at, see how he's done, and then gauge. Because if we just create this type of atmosphere where you can't have 33 points through 17 games, it's unacceptable. Well, Allegri did it, but we saved the day. You know what I mean? Anything can happen. So I think we all got to be patient. I think we got to understand everything and look at everything. And yes, did management make mistakes? Absolutely. They made mistakes, but they also did do some pretty good things. We're in a flux right now. We got to ride it out, but I'm behind Pirlo.
Yeah.
I'm behind him 100%. I really, really like what he's done. We got some last questions. Anybody that wants to get their last questions in, go for it now. Vishwajit saying, your opinion on the approach of Leipzig on Dragusin. Daniel, I'm going to let you tackle that one and what you think about, number one, Dragusin and the short amount of workload we can comment on, but your thoughts on that.
That transfer, doesn't make much sense to me. I think he wants to be here. I know obviously everyone wants more playing time, but I also think him learning from the likes of De Ligt and Chiellini and Danilo would also benefit him. He's 18, 19, whatever he is. And from what I saw in the Genoa game, he looked, he's big, he's physical, he can dominate. He's not too uncomfortable. He's pretty comfortable with his feet. I like what I saw. If we can get him a couple minutes here and there just to see how he does in a Serie A match, I think that would help as well. But I think he's a good prospect for the future, and hopefully he can carry on with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree too. I think he's a good prospect right now. It's hard for me to say like, oh yeah, if people want to like approach players or even loans or whatnot right now, man, there's that looming pandemic behind you that you could lose guys at any point in time.
Yeah.
And we've had to rely on Dragusin a little bit. Someone you don't know when it's going to happen again. So it's crazy times we're in, and it's changing the shape of the season. We've seen so much already, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Colin coming in here with Corriere della Merda, claiming the penalty should have been retaken due to Chiello's encroachment before the ball was kicked. Wow. Yeah. You pretty much summed it up in what we call them, which is Corriere della Gazzetta della Merda, we just leave that alone. It's unbelievable, man. It reminds me of that interview where Nedved did, where he just lost it on that battle there, and he goes, "Tutti contra la Juve," and they're like, "What?" And he's like, all of you are against Juve." That's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Vishwajit coming in with, don't you think during the Ronaldo period we should have got a much experienced coach? Because we got around for something, not for building the team. So this is actually a good one. We could probably close out on this because it takes me into another question that was posed by a Juventino, and it's in regards to another coach and the change. So in my personal opinion, the option of getting an experienced coach wasn't there due to the financials. Paying out Allegri when they got rid of him, still having to pay Sarri. They literally paid Pirlo like nothing in the grand scheme of things. 1.8 million, I believe, is what he makes. I shouldn't even say it nothing because I would gladly take that. It would be an extreme amount of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like next to nothing, right? I think where they dropped the ball is that they had banked on something that was not actually there when they got rid of Allegri. So I think when they got rid of Allegri, it was a little too hasty in terms of what's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's where they got it wrong in terms of do you need the experience? It's tough to say because I think after Sarri, the dressing room was such a fuck show that they needed to get somebody that the players would be on. They'd be on their side.
Yeah.
And if you bring in Pirlo into Juve's locker room, there's not going to be a single guy there that says, I don't like this guy or I don't want him here. And I think that's kind of a lot of what it came down to. But what are your thoughts on that? And then I've got a follow-up question that's from the Juventino. So your thoughts on this whole thing and getting the experienced coach?
Yeah, my only thing with that is who would you, even let's say they had the financials or whatever it may be, who would you prefer? Who would you have targeted? Pochettino maybe? But even what has he done for the Spurs that maybe would give him the edge over Pirlo coming to Juve? I felt this was the right move for, like we said, some new faces, some old faces, trying to get everyone together, unite everyone together. And like you said, it's kind of, you have a midfield legend, as your boss. I don't know how you would not respect the guy and trying to listen to what he's trying to tell you. Of course the experience, would be nice, but then again, that comes with time, and that comes with him, learning the tough ways of, a tough draw against whoever, or the ugly losses. And hopefully we don't have to live with that, much more. Right.
Yeah. You talked about Pochettino, and that was the follow-up question because Juventino had asked, did we miss the boat on Poch? So I think what it came down to a lot of it is there was a lot of rumblings after the meetings and whatnot of how Pirlo absolutely killed his interview session, I guess, with the board. And probably what they did was looked at his thesis. He spoke to it, his beliefs on the system he wants to implement and whatnot. And he probably spoke to the roster they have. He probably spoke to players he wants them to get or guys that are interested. And it probably made a lot of sense because if you looked at Poch's system, I don't necessarily think we had the right guys to make that work. And I think we are pretty damn suited to the setup Pirlo wants to get into.
Yeah.
And honestly, when we talk about this Ronaldo period that Vishwajit wants to talk to in this window, and did we absolutely botch or whatnot? Again, I say this, and I've said this many times. If you go back to that summer and you look at our club and you looked at where we were finishing consistently in terms of Champions League and everything like that, it was hard not to believe that that could be the missing piece. We are going to be so much stronger with him. What we saw was quite a lot of the opposite. We saw broken play, slow play, just not a cohesive unit for whatever reason. Like we were winning, we were winning domestically. We were still doing decent in Champions League, whatnot, but it was like, it almost got worse and got worse and worse. But now it's getting up again. So I don't know if it's just about an experienced coach, right? Because this has actually been pretty cohesive in terms of overall, and Ronaldo's production has been good.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. I don't think it's just down to experience. I think it's got to make sense for the players we currently have on the roster and everything like that. And it's the same reason why you get rid of Sarri instead of keeping him there. Like a lot of Juventini said, keep Sarri, give him the players he wants. I don't agree with that. If you don't have the locker room in the first place, what are you going to do? Change the entire team? Yeah, it's impossible. Exactly. You change one guy and keep the guys you have and then build from there. So I think there was a lot of things going for it that made sense that Pirlo would be there. Is it right or wrong? Again, still very, very, it's just too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon to tell. We got one last question that was coming from Antonio, who wanted to join us live, wasn't able to, but he says, after this display in the Supercoppa, is it enough for Pirlo to finally realize we can't do without Arthur in the middle? Well, I don't necessarily know. Pirlo seems to like the rotation and whatnot, but I don't think we'll ever see a lock just in terms of Pirlo wanting to keep guys fit or something, right? Like we talked about it earlier. We would almost lock guys in and get the wheels rolling, right? Is he going to lock into Arthur? Do you think he should? We talked about it and we said, yeah, you probably should. Yeah. Will he? We all hope. So Antonio, yeah, like I hope so, because we noticed how being that escape is almost huge, even if you're not getting what you need out of the passing, right? Arthur's huge. I think he's got to be in there now. I'm sold. I'm sold on it. I was reluctant for a bit there, but I'm sold now. So I think the answer to that question, Antonio, would be we hope so. We hope so. So we go into the match against Bologna this weekend. We talked about it. Keep things the same. Get into that. Do you expect this to be like a banana peel and we go back to the struggling ways, or do you see us following through, getting the job done comfortably? This match will be at 3:30 a.m. my time. I will be watching it, and I will be live doing a little stream. So anybody that wants to join me, watch me at 3:30 a.m. Crushing espressos to keep my eyes open and watch it. You could join me here on the YouTube channel. But Daniel, for your final thoughts for this podcast, which has been a blast having you on.
Thanks for having me.
How do you think it's going to go down against Bologna?
For me, I'm hoping that winning this trophy and actually playing like an overall unit of 11, like a team that fought and tried and worked hard together. I'm hoping that gives them some confidence going forward for the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about confidence. We talked about it. The team needed that. They needed it. Pirlo needed it and whatnot. Now it's time that, again, they've seen the standard. They've seen what they need to do. It's about carrying it through consistently now. And I think it starts immediately on this weekend. I expect a victory. And Vishwajit coming in there saying Fino alla fine, and in India it's perfect time. It'll be 5 p.m. Well, enjoy that. It'll be 3:30 here. And Marco Roberto coming in with, can I ask something? Of course you can ask something. Just set up my YouTube account. Yeah. I'm not sure if he's Marco, go for it, buddy. You've got like a couple seconds here, man. Fire away. But no, Daniel, man, it's been a blast having you on, man. A lot of fun.
Great time. Thank you
we got to make sure this is not the last time. And I'm kind of keeping ticks there on who's been joining the podcast on wins, because maybe there's a little bit of a luck thing there going on. So you get a nice check mark next to your name, Daniel, with the victory.
Perfect.
Marco coming in late with the what's your ideal midfield with Arthur? Well, we said keep it the same, man.
Yeah.
Kenny, Benta, and Arthur. Thought he played a good game against Napoli. Arguably, in our opinions, the best in the black and white for Arthur. Marco, I just mentioned, you can join live viewing, live stream of the match on Sunday. It'll be 3:30 a.m. my time. Be on time, though, buddy. And then you can get these questions on time there. But thanks for joining, man. Absolute blast. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everybody. And please hit the like button on the video, comment, subscribe. It all helps, goes a long way. Got a lot of fun stuff coming in the future as well. Yes, Marco, get Squeege in there. Squeege 10, get him in there. Love it. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. Be back on the weekend. Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.